Hi guys, it's so cool to see. I actually have people waiting for the live stream to start. Wow, just going to adjust my hair quickly. It's always strange to see yourself on camera. This is one of the odd things about a front-facing camera, but you guys might notice I am wearing a little microphone, so thumbs up if you can hear me better than you have in the past. I owe all of this to Chad Reynolds, who is sitting right over here. Give us a wave so we know you're real. There he is. And he figured out what he calls the $19 solution so that we can actually have proper audio. And just wait for it, because one of these days I'm going to stop doing this on my phone and I'm actually going to start doing it on a proper camera. But one thing at a time. Okay, I'm going to point one thing out to you. You'll see a cat over there on that chair. So for those of you guys who like cat spotting during the live streams, Molly is right behind me. Good luck on seeing Paisley. Anyway, for those of you guys who are tuning in, I really do appreciate it. I am not a Game of Thrones fan, but I know that it's the finale tonight. So I'd love to know where you guys are from and what your names are. I saw Adelaide in Australia, which is very cool. I've got a hello there from London. So I love meeting you guys from different parts of the world. And tonight I'm really excited because, ooh, Miami. Hello, Marisol. Tonight I'm going to be talking all about job interviews. Let's call them touchdowns and fumbles, because as somebody who's owned a business for the past 11 years, you better believe I've done a lot of job interviewing in my life. Ooh, someone from Jamaica. Oh my gosh, hello. Mississauga. We've got California. What is the time in Canada? Well, right now it's 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to go to bed in a couple of hours. I'm feeling pretty tired. Tomorrow I actually have, oh, India, hello. Tomorrow I have about 8 job interviews lined up. I am interviewing literally from morning to night. Got Toronto, Argentina, Michigan. So it's great to see all of you guys tuning in. Thanks for letting me know where you're from. Houston. Oh, I hope all of you guys who are in Texas are staying safe. We've got the Hurricane Harvey watch going on here, and I tune in because I know a lot of you guys are from Texas. We actually have a really large audience in Texas, so I've been thinking about you guys and some of the Texan YouTubers that I follow. I've been paying attention to them. Ooh, we got a little compliment about our house, and Janet is from Ontario, California, which Chad and I have actually been to before when we were in California. We were so excited to see it in Ontario. We went there, and then, of course, it had a mountain with snow on it, and I said, get me out of here. That's not what I want from California. I've got Sophia from the Philippines. Hello.
Was Chevy's the name of the
Chevy's,
restaurant?
yeah. So if you're in Ontario, California, Chevy's.
It was at the Mills Mall there. Ontario Mills.
Ontario Mills Mall.
And there's a Chevy's.
These are the exciting things Chad and I do when we travel. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we went to some chain Mexican restaurant and we went to an outlet mall. Anyway, we do have better things to do, I promise. But that was sort of a fun little thing that we did. Chad, oh, someone says, where's Chad? You better show your face.
I just said hi, everyone.
No, but, okay, so.
Oh, sorry.
Come and show your face.
Hi, everyone.
There he is.
Hi.
Cute, right?
I am here.
So if you see Melissa Maker popping up on comments, that is actually Chad. Oh, you're getting some hellos now. He is moderating as usual, so he will be calling out your comments, or if there are any trolls or inappropriate comments, he's going to go on and delete those ones. That's what I pay him for, so that's his job. Anyway, tonight, oh, Melanie says the couple who dresses like, I know, it happens. We're both wearing white. We're kind of nerds that way. Anywho, okay, so what I want to do is get right into the material that I've put together, because I've put a lot together. As I said, I'm interviewing right now for 2 positions at my company, and I have interviewed several times in my life, and I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and I want to tell you guys some of the disaster stories that I've experienced when I've been meeting people, and I do this not, of course, to make fun of them, but to help prepare you if you are going on a job interview. And as always, please put your questions in the comments down below. Chad's going to shout out any good questions to me that it would make sense for me to answer. Someone says, who trolls Melissa Maker? Dude,
Melissa
you have
Maker.
no idea. I don't even know who these people are, but you know, people find things. People find things. I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't troll me. I wouldn't troll you. But sometimes we get trolls. Anywho, let's not worry about them. The only thing I want to know about trolls is if I can pet their hair. Those are the trolls I like.
Oh, the little trolls from the late 80s?
Yeah, and now the Trolls
the
movie.
Toy trolls?
Yeah. Now there's that movie, The Trolls.
Is it the same?
Yeah, it's the same.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, see, I used to love little trolls. Now trolls have a whole different meaning. Yeah, a lot of people are saying they love those trolls too. I know. Thumbs up for those little fuzzy-haired trolls that were good luck charms, not jerks on the internet. Anyways, with purple hair,
That's
of
right,
course.
some of them had purple hair.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to cover off with you guys tonight. First up, I'm going to share with you my tips on how to nail your job interview and for things that I look for when I meet somebody. Because there are just a few little things when you're in an interview. First impressions always count, and I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And I've talked to a lot of other people who interview as well, and this stuff is pretty universal. So take it for what it's worth. And if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my computer screen, not texting my friends. Obviously, my phone's right in front of me. Next up, I'm going to give you 3 key steps of the interview process and how to really win this. So the first one is sending your resume and cover letter. What is your interviewer really looking for? What's going to make them keep your resume in the yes pile or toss it into the no pile? This is really important. Next, I'm going to tell you how to handle that pre-screen call because, well, at least for me, I pre-screen anybody before I bring them in because I want to talk to them even for a few minutes to filter out certain people so that I don't waste my time in the interview process. And then finally, when you're in the interview, what should you be doing to really do well during that time? Now, I hope these tips help you do really well the next time you're in an interview situation. And also, if you're new to interviewing or it's something that you do as part of your job, you're going to hear my experiences, and it's always nice to collaborate with other people and hear their opinions and their experiences. So I think this could be helpful on both sides. Either way, I'm going to try to pepper in some of the funny stories. I will not use any names, as I said, but I think it's important context. I think you guys should really know what I've been through and what I've seen because this stuff really happens in real life and it costs people the ability to get a job. And I want you to remember, what's on your resume and cover letter is just going to get you a pre-screen call or it's going to get you an interview. It's going to qualify you for the position. But what really gets you the job is how you are during the actual interview. So you really want to be ready for that one. So first up, I've just put down some tips, and I'm going to throw everything up on my blog anyway at melissamaker.com, so you can always check this out after. You can also rewatch this video if you need any motivation, tips, or inspiration, or just some positivity before you're going for a job interview. But you can always check out these details on my website. So first things first, just things I look for when I meet someone, and just some good general advice. So somebody just asked about a cover letter. I'm getting to a cover letter, so give me a couple of minutes. First up is poise. So posture, communication, and calm. When you go into an interview, you might have felt rushed to get there because maybe you were late or something along those lines. You're nervous. Everybody's nervous when they go for a job interview, but honestly, poise makes all the difference. So just remember, posture, communication, and calm. You want to sit upright. You want to be confident the way that you're sitting. You want to be a clear communicator, be able to articulate your thoughts and your needs, and you want to be calm. Because if I'm interviewing somebody and they're like, oh, and they're nervous and they're sweaty and they're speaking a mile a minute, it's really hard to get a full, true picture of that person. Next up is articulation. Now, I covered this a few weeks ago when I talked about how to sound smart, but I'm just going to skim over this again because I think it's worth mentioning. So, can you answer questions? I know it sounds obvious, but I have been in so many interviews where I've asked people, or even pre-screen calls, very simple questions, and this is my question, and that is the answer. So you really, if somebody's asking you a question, you want to give them a very concise answer. Also, can you speak clearly, and are you using a tone that is pleasing? So this is where you kind of have to listen to yourself back and see, how do I sound right now? Do I sound annoying? Do I sound, for me, you guys know one of my biggest fears is sounding like a valley girl. So do I sound like a valley girl right now, or do I sound really professional? That's something I would be asking myself. You also want to not use words that are either too big or too not intelligent sounding. You want to be right in the middle. You want to meet your interviewer where they are. And you also, if needed, you want to use an appropriate amount of industry-specific jargon. So don't go in there and be a jargon machine, because no one likes those. But be familiar with the industry-related jargon and use it where it's appropriate. Next up, professionalism. And one time I interviewed someone, and I swear to you, they brought me, don't want to ruin the equipment here. They brought me, this is a paper towel, they brought me a resume, and it was like crumpled. It was literally a piece of garbage. I'm like, what is this? What's going on here? So always being professional means dressing the part, looking the part, smelling the part, having your clothes not be wrinkled, giving a nice firm handshake but not an awkward one, and I will get into the handshake in more detail shortly. And do you follow up with a thank you note? Guys, let me tell you something. You want to know how to win an interview? Send your interviewer a thank you note, whether it's an email or a card. Maybe this has happened to me 2-3 times in my career as an interviewer. And pretty much each time, that person's received the job because they've proven themselves to be great at follow-ups and professional, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. And you know what? Most people don't take the time to do it. So if you can even take a couple minutes and send off a quick email thanking the person, or even better, writing them a card and popping it in the mail that day, that stuff makes a difference. Preparedness is something I look for as well. So has the person researched the company? Have you researched me, the person interviewing you? Have you read up on the role? And do you have questions prepared? I'm going to get into some funny stories, but I actually wrote a blog post about some very strange pre-screen calls that I had. They were just terribly awkward. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that the individuals weren't prepared to speak to me. So be prepared. If you send out 600 resumes and you get a call from company X, they're not going to want to bring you in if you have no idea who they are. You really want to make sure you know what you're dealing with. Timeliness also is an important thing. And you know, this has to do with the interview itself, but showing up on time, and what I mean by that is just a couple minutes ahead of schedule, 5 minutes max. If you show up 10 minutes ahead of time, it might put the interviewer in an awkward situation. They might be in the middle of doing something and then they have to stop and meet you, or they have to address you during the process, anything like that. So if you can show up just a few minutes early, I think that's great. It's a great opportunity for you to use the bathroom, calm yourself down, take a few deep breaths, center yourself, and get ready for the interview. You can also do a teeth check. If you're a lady, you can reapply your lipstick. You can dry off your sweaty hands, because shaking a sweaty old hand is not something I like to do. So get yourself ready to go. And finally, be respectful. So for me, there are so many different ways you can demonstrate respect, but one of the most important things is to know how to say the person's name properly. So for me, whenever I make a phone call and I'm going to, speak to somebody whom I've never spoken to before, and they have a name that is, not an English name that I'm familiar with, I will spend a couple of minutes sounding it out or even Googling how to say that name properly, because saying someone's name improperly is not cool. So know who you're talking to, be respectful, and know how to say their name. Okay, so those are just my little tips on, things just off the top of my head that I wanted to share with you guys. Just little extras that you can do to really nail that interview and sort of stick out above the rest. Really show yourself. Chad, any questions so far that you'd like me to address?
How do you make a resume / get a good job after being a stay-at-home mom for almost 10 years and don't have much previous work history?
I think that's a great question. The question was, how do you put a resume and a cover letter together when you've been at home for 10 years as a stay-at-home mom? So first and foremost, what you can do is you can head to, in Ontario we have these job employment centers that are government funded, and they have job developers who help individuals like yourself put a resume and a cover letter together. They get you resources, they can get you trained up on anything that you need. So for example, if you need training on QuickBooks, or if you need training on cloud-based software, they will offer that training to you so that you can develop those skills before you apply for a job. Other things that you can do, you can offer to volunteer. You can request an internship. You can look for part-time work, and you can build your resume up that way. So as somebody who employs people, someone who's been out of the workforce for 10 years, my concerns would be, okay, well, how quick are they going to be on the computer? Will they remember the things that they did 10 years ago when they were in the workforce? We're talking 2007. I mean, I don't even think iPhones were out in 2007. A lot has changed since then. So it's really important for you to develop those skills so that you're not just putting on your resume, this is what I did in 2007, here's a 10-year gap. I was a stay-at-home mom, which is a super important job, but when you're taking that into the workforce, you have to look for those transferable skills, and you have to be able to prove to a potential employer that you're a better choice than anyone else. So the best way to do that is to bulk up your skills, get some volunteer experience, and then go and apply for a job. So I hope that answered your question.
Is a cover letter a must when applying for a job?
It is, and I'm going to address the cover letter as soon as I get through these questions, so I promised you we're getting right to that cover letter, because it really, to me, a resume without a cover letter is like wearing a dress without a great pair of shoes. You can't do it.
Go ahead with the cover letter. Find your points.
Okay, so what I want to do is get into the first chunk of the whole resume/job application process, which is sending in your resume and your cover letter. So when you're putting a cover letter together, like I said, I think it's really important because it provides context and color to your resume. A resume is just a document, but when I read a cover letter, it tells me a little bit about who you are and your experience. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is do not have a generic cover letter, okay? So whenever I get a resume, and if I'm lucky enough that it has a cover letter, 9 times out of 10, it's a cover letter that I swear someone went to google.com, cover letter, and just took a form cover letter and stuck it, their name, dear hiring manager, date, blah, 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 great customer service skills, very task-oriented, efficient, blah, all these general things that everybody says all the time when they're applying for a job. So everybody should be perfect, right? Because they can do all these things that they're talking about. The truth is, a cover letter is an opportunity for your personality to shine. Now, when I look at a cover letter and I see generic, 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 and then, oh, someone actually took the time to write a good cover letter. So that always excites me, and I want to learn more. What it does is it gives you, the applicant, the opportunity to say, hey, first of all, I've researched your company, and I think I'm great for the role. I've read the job description, and here's where my skills particularly would be a great fit for you and your role. By the way, here are some great successes or great things that have happened to me in my previous roles. And if for whatever reason you have been out of work for the last period of time, when I look at a resume and I see a gap, that really concerns me. So you can address that right in the cover letter. So the cover letter is a great opportunity for you to just provide color, context, and more information, more than what you can fit into your resume. And if you can be a little bit different and sort of stick out, it's going through resumes and cover letters is like such a tedious job that if you can actually put something kind of interesting in there, that's great for me. I want to meet you. Chad.
What format should I use for a cover letter / resume in order to stand out from the rest and not be generic? And I would add to that, how quirky should you be?
Yeah, so how quirky should you be if you're putting a resume or cover letter together, and what format should you use? So it should always be an easy to follow format, and there are tons of templates available on word processing software. You can even use new programs that have come out, something along the lines of Canva. Those are really great for coming up with beautiful formats. But the point is, you want to put something together that is concise. When I read a resume and it's got like 400 different points on it, it can sort of be annoying to read through all of that. So just sort of highlight the most important things. Bolding is great, using the use of underline and bold to sort of break up text or really hone in on something that you want to stick out. That's a great way to go. Personally, I find it weird when someone puts a photo of themselves on a resume. I should never know what you look like. You don't want me to know what you look like because I don't ever want to hire someone based on their looks. So I think that's sort of strange, but if you want to include, beautiful font or a nice stripe of color, just something that's a little bit different or fun. I've seen resumes like that before and they look great. Now don't use, Comic Sans font or anything that sort of looks immature or unprofessional, but you can certainly use something that's a little bit standoutish. Now the other thing to keep in mind is that be industry specific. So if you're a graphic designer, obviously your resume should look phenomenal because that's your job. But if you're somebody who's going into something like data entry or something quite simple, you can have it look a little bit nicer than the rest just to stick out, but you don't have to go all out and make it look incredible for that reason.
Where can newcomers go in Ontario for assistance to get a job and to get the Canadian experience?
Oh, that's a great question. Where can newcomers go to get job experience and to get help finding a job? So I can only speak on behalf of Ontario, which is where I live in Canada, and that's actually where the person who asked the question is from too. But this really applies to anybody, anywhere in the world. Your government is more than likely going to offer job placement programs to help newcomers to the country get acclimatized. Obviously, anybody who comes into the country, it is in the country's best interest for that person to be a productive working member of society. So speak to, you can go to City Hall, wherever the City Hall is where you live, and you can inquire about job placement services or any job organizations that exist to help people become employed. So in Ontario, I know I work with a lot of job developers through government-funded programming. And for an individual who is looking for a job in Ontario, they can go to like a Service Ontario kiosk, or I don't want to say store, but it is a storefront. You can go there and you can start your inquiry process there. But your government is always going to want to support you when you're a newcomer. So make sure that you definitely take advantage of those government-run programs. Okay, I want to get back into this resume cover letter business. Use the interviewer's name if you can. I can't tell you how many times I've received a cover letter and it says, Dear hiring manager. Like, if you took 3 seconds to Google clean my space, you would know who's interviewing you. Or you can always ask who is interviewing me, or the job post might tell you. So if you can glean that information at any cost, avoid using Dear hiring manager. It's so bland, and it really doesn't help you stick out from the crowd. If this stuff is helping you guys so far, give it a thumbs up. And remember, Chad's here moderating comments, so let him know in the comments down below anything that you have questions about. Now, your resume should be up to date and not missing any time period. So let's say, for example, the individual who asked earlier about being a stay-at-home mom, in your cover letter, it would be a perfect opportunity for you to say, in 2007, I had my first child, and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, for the past 10 years. It's been a wonderful experience. Here are some of the things that I've learned over the years. Here are where my passions lie, and these are some of the recent skills that I have developed in preparation for re-entry into the workforce. Then that way, I already know, okay, I don't need to ask you where you've been for the past 10 years. It's right here in your cover letter. Spell check and grammar check. My friends, it is infuriating to see bad spelling and grammar when I read a resume. So if spelling and grammar is not your jam, you've got to spend extra time. You have to put your document through spell check. You can even have a friend, family member, or a job developer, someone at one of those government-run facilities, help you with your resume to make sure that it sounds great and that it looks great from a spelling and grammatical standpoint. It's just, if I see that, honestly, guys, I can tell you, I toss those resumes because it shows me that you're not detail-oriented. And if you're not detail-oriented enough to make your resume and cover letter, your first impression piece, look perfect, what else are you going to let slide? Okay, so provide what they're asking for. That's another really important one. So whenever I post a job, I will always say, please, include your available start date, your salary expectations, a resume, and a cover letter, and highlight any of these particular things that you have experience in your cover letter. So they're pretty simple instructions, and if people are unable or unwilling to follow them, I also sort of ignore those ones. Like if they just send me in a resume without a cover letter, I find that really annoying. You know what? I asked you to send me a cover letter. I asked you to address these points. You're not doing that. So if you're not following my instructions here, what else are you not going to follow instructions on? So I hope this is giving you guys a little bit of insight into how an interviewer thinks. So these questions that they're asking, or the resume and the cover letter process is so important because all of these little boxes need to be ticked before you even make it to the next stage, which is the pre-screen phone call. So I'm going to get into that now. But before I do that, Chad is nodding his head because I think he wants to rudely interrupt me with some of your questions.
What makes you choose one candidate over another when they are equally qualified?
Wow. Okay, so the question was, what makes me choose one candidate over another when they are equally qualified? Well, let me tell you, no two people are ever equally qualified because you can have an education that matches the next person's education, but you won't have the personality that the other person has, or vice versa. You won't have the volunteer experience that the other person has, or vice versa. There are so many nuances to interviewing people that education has a very small part to play in the actual hiring process. So much, as I said to you guys earlier, your resume and your cover letter get you in the door, but your personality and the way that you interview, that is what gets you the job. And there's so much more to the story than qualifications.
Work ethic, sense of humor,
Yeah,
personality.
work ethic, Chad. I don't know if you guys can hear him because I'm mic'd now. So work ethic, sense of humor, personality, these are all things that Chad's throwing out. And I'm not saying go in there and be Jerry Seinfeld, but and I'm going to cover this off during the interview, but when I interview people, I want to interview a person, not a piece of cardboard. And I know that you're nervous, but you got to show me your personality because we got to work together, and I want to make sure we're going to have a good time. And I'm not talking about a party, but I'm talking about we have to get along. You have to have something in it for me. I have to have something in it for you. And I'll cover more of this off after. Yes, Chad
one
Reynolds.
More and then get back to it.
Okay,
I keep
one more
giggling
question.
when you say process because Americans say process.
Okay, so I just got trolled for saying process instead of process. So sometimes I will say process, but for my Canadian people, they can all give the thumbs up right now if they say process. It's just the Canadian way that we say things. And you know what? Americans love making fun of us for it.
Obviously, you don't say program, you say program.
Yeah, Chad said you don't say program, you say program. You don't say process, you say process. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just a little Canadian quirk. Yeah, all the Canadians are like, yeah, process. Okay.
Get back to it.
All right, so let's move right along to the pre-screen phone calls. These are one of my favorite parts because this is where I sit there and just rub my old paws together because I think, all right, let's see what you got. When I pre-screen, I love to talk to people because I have a little list of questions, and immediately those questions help me funnel the good from the bad. So if you made it past the resume and cover letter stage, you're now, like, I consider everything a big funnel, like top, middle, bottom. Yeah, Julie, I was totally joking about the troll thing. It was just a reference to earlier. Don't worry. I call it a funnel. So the top part is sort of the resume cover letter. Have you made it there? The middle part is sort of the pre-screen. And then the bottom right there is the actual interview. So now we're on the middle, this pre-screen phone call. Pre-screen phone calls are not to be taken lightly. They are my first opportunity to talk to you and to see who you are and how you handle my questions. So not only are you answering the questions in the way that I need them answered, as in, can you start, what day can you start? Well, one lady I called, I was doing a pre-screen, I think it was on Friday, and I said, well, when can you start? She goes, November 2nd. I'm like, well, I don't think we're going to be working together then. Like, I need someone yesterday. So, pre-screen calls are great for me because they do help me funnel people out. Can you work at our location? There's a lot of construction where our office is right now. Is that going to be a problem for you? It's really annoying for me, and I'm very honest about that. Is it annoying for you? So it really helps me funnel out and figure out who these people are. When you're applying for jobs, here's what I want you to do. First of all, I want you to change your voicemail if it's weird. So I've called voicemails before and I've gotten like Tupac songs. I've gotten just very strange voicemail messages. And really, you could be like a super professional person, but if you have a weird voicemail message, I don't know. I just click. I don't want to. One guy did some weird. I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to make fun of him. I don't want to give you guys any specifics. But I called this guy last week. His voicemail was so like borderline frightening. I was just like, no. And his resume went in the shredder. So change that voicemail. And you should square it up a little bit. And you can change it back once you get a job or not. But if you're applying for a job, don't have a weird email address and don't have a weird voicemail. Just keep it nice and square. That's what you want. So you can get like your name at whateveraccount.com, and that's a pretty great one. But one time I remember that I'm not going to say the exact email address. I don't want this poor lady getting spammed, but it was almost like a sexual Wiccan reference in her email address, and it was bizarre. So that's just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, when you answer the phone and somebody's calling you, sound friendly. This might sound really obvious. You might say, Melissa, move on. But I'm telling you guys, I did a bunch of pre-screening calls on Friday, and this is what I get. Hello? 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 Angry people that sound murderous. Like these people sounded crazy. And, I've had moments where I've been in a bad mood. It happens. Once in a blue moon. No, more often than that. But I've had times where I've been in a bad mood and I've answered the phone and I haven't thought about it. And I've been like, hello. And then it's a really important call and I'm like, oh, hi. And then you kind of sound like a psycho, right? Because you're like angry, crazy. And then, oh, you change right away. So if you're applying for a job and you know that you could be expecting a pre-screening call, just be mindful of that and answer the phone in a more pleasant way. All right. Now, when you apply for a job, you should also research the company. And I know that I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. And I don't think this guy's watching my live stream right now. So I'm not going to use any names, but I'm going to tell you guys the story because it's a little bit cray. So I call him, doing the pre-screen call. How are you? Good. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. So what do you know about Clean My Space? Now, take a pause here for a second. You guys all know me. You guys have probably used Google once in your life. Now, if you type in Clean My Space into Google and all you have to do is hit enter, you're probably going to get a lot of information coming up. We have a service company. We've been in business for 11 years. We have a lot of, detailed history online. I have a book. I have a YouTube channel. I have a website. I got all kinds of things going on in the cleaning world. So when I asked this guy, what do you know about, or have you looked into our company? He said, yeah, I looked it up, but I couldn't find anything online. What? So immediately at this point, I knew this guy wasn't telling me the truth because he said, yeah, I know. And I said, hold on a minute. You went to Google and you typed in Clean My Space and you couldn't find anything about Clean My Space? He said, no, yeah, I typed it in, but nothing came up. Okay. Anyway, we didn't go any further on that conversation because I knew he was lying. So just remember, be prepared, research the company, because if they call you, you want to have a little bit of background. Not too much, but just enough so that you can have a conversation. I'm really impressed when people say, of course I know about Clean My Space. You started in 2006, you have a great reputation in Toronto, blah, blah, blah. Okay, not only is it patting my ego a little bit, but it shows me that they've done their homework, and I do love that. Okay. Now, if you can't take a call at that time, let's say you're at work, tell the person who you're talking to that you're at work and you need to talk to them at another time. So I called someone. I'm sure this man's not watching either. And I pre-screened him. Chad's laughing because I've told this story to my friends. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. This guy and I call him, and he's working at a restaurant. He put it on his resume. He was working at a restaurant, had some really good experience before. So I figured, okay, everyone deserves a chance. I gave him a ring. As I'm talking to him, this guy is taking someone's order, so he must have been like this while he's preparing the order, and I hear ringing in, like he's ringing in the order on a computer while he's on the phone with me. And I'm sorry, if I'm an employer and I'm paying you and you're on my clock, I don't want you trying to find another job while I'm paying you. And for me, that doesn't bode well. Like if I hear somebody doing that, I'm very disinterested in bringing that person in. So that was an immediate no. A lot of people, when I called them, because I am calling during business hours, they'll say, you know what, now's not a good time. I would say to them, no problem. When should I call you back? We come up with a mutual time. I schedule it in. I give them a call, and that's that. So the other thing I want to tell you guys is not to lie ever. Don't ever lie during a pre-screen call. It's going to catch you, that lie is going to catch up to you, and it's going to be really embarrassing. If it's not caught during the interview, it's going to be caught while you're working, and it never serves you well to lie. If you don't know something, simply say, I don't know, and that's totally okay. It's simple, but it's really good advice. Also, be positive and sound excited on the phone. People who are positive and excited to chat with me, that's great. If you're like a negative deadbeat, I definitely don't want you working for me. And I've had phone calls with people who literally sound like they'd be more excited to rip cardboard boxes all day than talk to me. Like I can't even think of something so boring, but it's like me talking to them is burdening them. So why would I ever want to bring that person in for a job interview? I wouldn't. I only want to bring in positive, upbeat people who are happy. That's exactly who I want working for me. So when you're on those pre-screen calls, make sure that you sound amazed. Okay, let's take a little pause because I'm going to get to, during the interview, some of the most important points during these conversations. But I do want to answer some of your questions. And Chad, I don't think you guys can hear him because I'm mic'd up. He's probably not audible, so I'm just going to repeat his questions. But if you see me looking off, it's just because I'm looking at my handsome husband.
How do you get off those calls that you know are a hard no?
How do I get off those calls that are a hard no? Well, okay, that comes with experience, guys. I'm a professional. I'm a seasoned pro. What I do, honestly, what I will do is if I speak to somebody and I know that it's a definite no, I will not get off the phone with them that second. I will ask them one more question because I'm a firm believer in letting people go with dignity in anything that I do. So I won't just, hang up or be curt with them right away. I'll ask them one more question, and then I just let them know, thanks so much for chatting with me. I'm just doing a bunch of pre-screening calls, and then in a few days I'm going to be calling back people who I'm interested in, and I wish them a good day. That's what I do.
Hi, Melissa. There's a spooky cactus behind you shaped like a ghost.
There's a spooky cactus behind me shaped like a ghost.
And I actually replied and said, no, I can't unsee it. Kind of when you look at it, you kind of realize it does
Yeah,
look
it
like
kind of does look like a ghost. Yeah, someone said our cactus looks a bit like a ghost. I've heard the cactus looks like other things too, but things that aren't family friendly or appropriate. You know what? I saw the cactus. I liked it. It's there. Whether it looks like a ghost or another thing, to me it looks like a cactus. What else do we have, Chad?
Why don't you finish off your last point? Try to crack that out, and maybe we can just have like 10 minutes of like just open Q&A.
Okay.
There's a tight group of people who are doing this instead of Game of Thrones, so
yes.
Maybe we'll just open it up because some people
okay.
are asking about rap.
Okay.
East Coast, West Coast.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we have some great questions coming. Oh, you guys can hear Chad. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so you guys who are lovely enough not to be watching Game of Thrones, but to be watching your good old friend me instead, I'm going to finish my little points about during the interview, and then afterward we can open it up and chat about a couple of other things quickly before I'll let you go for your evening. Okay. So during the interview, so I already talked about earlier those tips on how to nail the interview, and if you haven't caught those, you can either watch this from the beginning after I finish the live feed, or like I said, I'm going to put all of this up on my website, melissamaker.com, so that you can see all of my points, because I honestly think this stuff is key to helping you guys nail your job interviews. And of course, if you're interviewing, these are some things you should definitely look out for or build your skills on. So during the interviews, I ask questions. Of course I ask questions. So I look at your resume. The first thing I want to do is get to know you a little bit. So I chat with you a little bit. We kind of, I see if we hit it off, if we have any good chemistry. Not unlike a date, right? Like you want to make sure that you have you have the ability to get along with somebody when you first meet them. Now, I also find that people are nervous at the very beginning, and I'm going to cover this off a little bit later, but I find a little bit of an icebreaker is a great way to help people calm down and get into the interview zone. But once I ask questions, the questions that I ask you are not hoity-toity, sell me this pen. Like, that's not a great interview question. The questions I ask you are all functional questions. I think about the role, and then I come up with specific questions, and I ask you for examples of when you've been in that situation in the past, what you did, and what your outcome was. Now, I will be in interviews and people will say hypothetical answers to me, and that is so annoying. I don't care what you would do or what you think you might do. I want to know what you've actually done and what you effected because of that work. So when you're in an interview, what really helps people on the other side of the table, people like me, is to know what you did and what the outcome was, because that's what I care about. I don't care about what you would do hypothetically because you're a great person. We all know that. We need to know results. Okay. Specific examples are very important too. So on Friday, I was interviewing this lady. She was interesting. I say interesting with a raised eyebrow. Not interesting like she volunteered with Doctors Without Borders, like interesting. And she, I asked her these very specific questions, and she kept giving me vague responses. And at one point, I drilled down twice. Twice I went back. I threw her a bone 2 times for this one question, and she kept coming back to me with vague answers. And at that point, I just gave up and I moved on to the next question. But that sort of wrote it off because I thought, okay, Miss Hypothetical, that's great. So hypothetically, could you do the job that I'm hiring for? I don't care about hypotheticals. I care about actuals. So when you're in an interview, just remember that. You want to give actual answers, actual results. Let's talk about the good old handshake, because this is an important one and there are a lot of nuances to a handshake. Now, I was told, when I first started my career, having a good handshake is important, and it really is. But there are definitely some yeses and some big old no-nos with handshakes. So I've written them down and I'm going to make sure that I cover them off. So when I meet someone, I always make sure that I shake their hand. Typically, if I'm the interviewer, I'm going to reach out to shake your hand. You certainly can with mine, but I think it's sort of decorum appropriate if I offer up the handshake first. Now, when you shake someone's hand, you should stand up. If you're sitting down and they walk into the room, you should stand up, meet them where they are, and shake their hand. Sitting down is like, I'm too lazy to stand up and shake your hand. You're not important enough for me. If you're meeting someone for an interview, you should totally stand up. All right. You want to meet the strength of the handshake that's being given to you. So you don't want to do the old limp fish. That, honestly, I have a great handshake. If you ever meet me, we'll hug for sure. But also just take me for a test drive. Shake my hand. You'll see. John's laughing at me. Whatever. You know I have a good handshake. Laughing at me. This guy, honestly, I need a new producer for my live streams. So yeah, I have a pretty good handshake. I've practiced it over the years. And if I get one of these from someone, it's so weird. Yeah. So strengthen up your handshake a little bit if you need to. Honestly, sounds cheese. You can try practicing with yourself. You can also try practicing with a friend who you really trust that's not going to make fun of you, but it's a great skill to have. You want to meet the strength of the handshake that's being given to you. So if the person whom you're shaking hands with has a good firm handshake, you want to tighten up your grip a bit and give it a good shake. If they're a little lighter, you don't want to be Mr. Aggressive and give like a crazy handshake. You really just want to meet them where they are. You also want to have a dry hand. Let me tell you, it is disgusting to shake a wet hand. So I know it happens. Look, I'm going to embarrass you right now, Chad. When we first started dating, this guy had the sweatiest palms this side of the Mississippi. It was really gross. But he was so lovely because he kept wiping his hands off on his pants, and then he would hold my hand again, and then he would say, I need a second, and then he would wipe his hand off, and then he would hold my hand again. And sort of the same thing goes when you're shaking hands. You want to make sure that your hand is relatively dry. So if you're nervous and you sweat on your hands, Don't let me make you more paranoid, but just keep in mind, wipe your hands off on your pants really quickly before you shake someone's hand. And then that way they're not getting, a wet handshake. If someone pumps my arm more than twice, it's awkward. What are you trying to do? Like,
Donald
date
Trump.
me? No, we're not going there. But my point is, so I interviewed this girl on Friday, and she gave me like a good 3 to 4 pumps. Like me, I'm like, maybe 2. That's like my max. This girl just kept on going for the victory lap, and I was like, cool, you're lovely. It was great to meet you. Let's end this. It's weird. So, I think 2 pumps is pretty reasonable. So just keep that in mind. Now, let your interviewer lead. So just let them lead the whole handshake thing. That's my best advice to you. I'm sure that they will want to shake your hand. Now, at the end, if you feel really compelled, like you had a great interview with them and you'd be like, Chad, thank you so much. I'd love to shake your hand. That's cool. But usually a professional individual is going to offer to shake your hand, especially if they've invited you into their home, if you will, for an interview. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story before I move on to my next one about a handshake that I had to do on Friday when I was doing some interviews. So, I was doing something on my computer. Wait, I have to take a drink. Oh, so much better. I was interviewing somebody on Friday. I was finishing up some work at my desk, and they were sitting in the conference room waiting for me. Now, I know, okay, you're checking your phone, whatever you're doing. If I'm not in there yet, that's fine. But you never know when I'm going to walk in. So, don't do anything weird. This person was blowing their schnozzle as I was walking in. So I get it. Like, I am an allergy sufferer. My nose, I sneeze all the time. My nose is constantly stuffed. I know the feeling. But this girl was like straight up nose blowing as I walked in. Now, that's unavoidable. I totally get it. But she then put the Kleenex very quickly in her pocket, stood up and stuck out her same nose blowing hand to shake my hand. And I'm like, oh God, like what am I supposed to do here? So that put me in a pickle because I don't want to look like a jerk and not shake her hand, but then I don't want to touch the germy, sneeze hand either. But I did anyway, and I just treated that hand like it was in quarantine the whole time I was interviewing. And then I went to the bathroom immediately after that interview. Chad's like peeing in his pants right now. But I washed my hands like hardcore after that interview. So, just be mindful about that stuff, personal hygiene and whatnot. It was kind of gross. Okay, I'm going to get into nerves because when I interview people, so many of them are nervous. And I remember when it was like going for job interviews, and God damn it, I was so nervous too. And what I can tell you is this: when I interview people, I'm only there to see if they're a great fit for the job and a great fit for the company. That's all I care about. And I know, when some people go for interviews, they sort of put so much weight on the interview itself. But the truth is this: either it's meant to be or it's not. Either you're the right candidate or you're not. And if you're not for this job, you will be for the next job. And even if you think you really want it and it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. Something else is going to come up. And if you can shift your attitude and think about it like that, it's really going to help you calm down and not be so nervous when you're in that interview, number one. Because, and I have my points here, so I want to make sure that I cover everything. I can really tell when someone's nervous. And in fact, there have been some times where I've said to people, let's put a pause here. You seem really nervous. Why don't you take a couple of deep breaths, just relax, and we can continue. Because when I interview somebody and they're so nervous, they cannot think clearly, they cannot answer questions, they're not concise, and I can't get a true picture of who these people are and if they are a good hire for me to make. When you're at work every day, you're not nervous you, you're calm you, you're productive you. So that's who I want to meet. I want to see the calm and productive you, not the you who's like worrying about every little thing. So just remember, when you go for an interview, your interviewer wants to get to know you. Of course they want you to answer questions. Of course they want you to be on the same page as them and the perfect employee. Who doesn't want that when they're interviewing? But at the same time, they really want to get to know who you are. And just remember that. And frankly, if you're not like a corporate robot, that's actually kind of better. So have a little bit of personality. Don't be Jerry Seinfeld. Like, you don't have to knock everyone's socks off with your humor, but just, have a bit of a personality. That's what people like to see. Remember, we're all going to be working together every day if you get hired. So I need to know that you've got a personality there as well as a skill set. So what else do I want to cover off? Here are some practical things you can do if you are nervous. So I told you, go to the bathroom, arrive to your interview a little bit early, and then that way you have a couple of minutes to go to the bathroom. Go to a stall, shut the door, or lock yourself in there, look in the mirror, and I talk about these all the time, and do some affirmations. Positive affirmations. Look into your own eyes and tell yourself exactly what you need to hear in that moment. You're amazing, you're smart, you're talented, you're qualified, you're successful, you got this, you can do it, all of those things. Anything that you need to do to big yourself up. Anything that you would say to your best friend or your child or someone who's really important to you if they really needed your support that day. You have to be there for yourself. So you show up for yourself, you give yourself the confidence that you need. You can also do the power pose. So Julie's saying, why is there a mirror in the stall? There might not be. It might be one of those public bathrooms. So if no one's in there, you can do it. If not, you can even pull out your phone and do it there, and you can just mouth it so that no one can hear you if there are other people in there. The power pose, if you guys haven't heard about this before, it's where you kind of stand in this position. You stand up tall, you put your arms out like that, and you just hold it for 2 minutes, and it's supposed to make you feel very powerful. Not necessarily dominant, but powerful. That really can help you as well. And even deep breaths. I know it sounds cheese, but taking 5 deep breaths, like for me, I get so nervous at the doctor's office. When I'm at the doctor's office, I sit down, I put my feet on the floor, and I take deep breaths, and my heart rate literally starts to slow down. So you can try doing the same thing if you're feeling really nervous. Answering questions appropriately is really important. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. I was talking to this lovely young lady, but she was nervous as anything. And I asked her a question. I said, why do you think you'd be a great fit here at Clean My Space for the, customer service position? And she went off on a crazy tangent. She started talking about worker safety. She started talking about allergies in the workplace, and if somebody at work had bad allergies, she wouldn't bring in, if they had a peanut allergy, she wouldn't bring a peanut butter sandwich to work for lunch. I was like, yes, and what does it have to do with the customer service position? So when you're nervous, you might have a tendency to stop listening to what the interviewer is asking you and start to formulate your question based on like the first 3 words that came out of the person's mouth. You want to pause, you want to listen, and then you want to take a second and formulate your answer before you actually answer. If you stop listening and start formulating, you're not going to answer the question in its entirety. And if you feel like you've really screwed something up, you can always say to the interviewer, you know what, would you mind just asking me that question again? I'd love to do a retake if you don't mind. Just be honest. You're human. It happens. You might as well do yourself a favor and get yourself a reset if at all possible. But remember, just being focused on the person who's talking, looking at them in the eyes, listening intently, and then taking a moment to formulate your answer, that's a great way to do it. Okay. Now, the final point I want to bring up about this is an interview is a 2-person party, okay? It's an interview. You are meeting each other. You should have questions prepared. You should come with a list of questions of things you want to know. Do you want to know about company culture? Do you want to know about vacation policy? What do you want to know about? Because when you get there, and let's say you get hired and you didn't ask a question, and that happens to be a deal breaker for you, or you don't know the dress code and you show up to work dressed grossly inappropriately, you only have yourself to blame. You should have just asked. So have a list of questions prepared. And remember, it's all about a conversation. Get to know the interviewer, especially if you're going to be working with them. You want to make sure you hit it off. It is kind of like a first date that way. So it's not just one-sided. When I meet people, I love when they ask me questions because it shows me they're interested and it does demonstrate to me that they really want the job. Now, I'm going to remind you guys, I am going to put this all up on a blog post for you so that you can reference these points at any time up on melissamaker.com. That should be up the next couple of days or so. I'm also going to put up a story, a post about a few stories about some awkward pre-screen calls I've had recently, just some little flubs that you can kind of avoid, and they're also kind of funny. Anywho, what I'm going to do now is open up the comment section, and I'm going to have my dear husband, Monsieur Reynolds, ask me your questions, and I will try to answer them for you.
I heard that you work 80 hours a week. How do you guys find balance for yourselves?
Thank heavens I don't work 80 hours a week anymore. I would say it's probably closer to 60, 60, something like that. When I first started the business, it was crazy. You can't be an entrepreneur and not work crazy hours. I have yet to meet someone who doesn't. I've been able to scale it back over the past few years, thank heavens, and that is because I have great people who work with me. But if you don't have that support, a lot of it falls on you. In terms of finding balance, it does come down to, at times Chad and I have what we call tech-free nights. So we put our phones away and we just kind of focus on each other and we don't focus on work. And if either one of us feel that we're talking too much about work, because, Chad and I run 3 businesses together. We're also married. And we started our first business 3 months into dating. Either of us can sort of pull the veto card and say, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Can we talk about something else? And we just do. So that's kind of how we find balance. Next question.
Not a question, but a comment.
Mm-hmm.
In Argentina, we kiss the people, even in a job interview.
Oh.
We are kissing type people.
Yes, you are. Yeah, there are a lot of cultures that do the kiss, and it's really funny because when you get an awkward Canadian like me who doesn't do the kiss and they go in to do the kiss, I'm kind of like, ugh.
And is it one cheek? Is it 2 cheeks?
Yeah, you don't know what to do.
Do you actually kiss, or do you kind of kiss beside the ear in the air?
But that actually brings up a great point. It's so important to be culturally sensitive and know that, especially if you're a newcomer to a country, understand what those cultural norms are so that you're on par with everybody else.
East Coast hip-hop or West Coast hip-hop?
I like both. East Coast hip-hop or West Coast hip-hop?
Come on,
no.
Where does your heart lie, though?
But I like so many West Coast hip-hop songs.
Jay-Z and Biggie, or Dre and
I don't know. Guys, I think this is too hard. I can't answer these questions. Business questions I can answer. Don't ask me to pick hip-hop.
Does the Superman pose kind of do the same thing?
Yeah, the Superman pose, the Superman pose?
Yeah. Just imagine
Is that the Superman pose?
Flowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, it's whatever feels good to you. If this makes you feel powerful, do it. If this makes you feel powerful, do that.
What happens when you're interviewing a person who's also a fan? Is that awkward?
What happens when I'm interviewing someone who's also a fan? Is that awkward? You know what's cute? It happens. It happens a lot. People come in and they'll be like, oh my God, Melissa. But then they just see quickly, I'm just a human, man. I got a job. I got things I need to do, and this is what I look like in person, and we chat for a couple of minutes, and then we can kind of get down to business. But I have had, it's been really sweet. I've had a few people, and they've been so overwhelmed, and I always find it funny, because I'm just me, I'm just little old me, but when other people meet me, they get really excited, which is sweet, and I totally honor that, so, typically they'll calm down after a few minutes, but yeah, it's cute.
So some short answers to these ones.
Yes.
Should you lie?
Chad's take a little bit less time when you're answering these questions.
That's exactly what I was saying. Should you lie during an interview?
Should you lie during an interview? Never. Oh my God, you guys. Please do yourself a favor and do your interview a favor and just never lie. If there's something that you can't do or you don't know how to do or you don't know, just be honest. Honesty bodes so much better for you than a lie does. Honest to goodness.
How do I answer a question where I don't know the answer?
How do you answer a question where you don't know the answer? That is a great question, and I do know the answer to that one. You can simply say, you know what? I'm not sure, but I'd love to learn. And You know, one of the things that you do in PR is you learn how to spin things into a positive. So you can say, you know, I'm not familiar with that particular piece of software, but I will tell you I'm a fast learner, and if I were given a handbook or tutorials, I'd be happy to take that home and work on it. And I promise you, you know, I'm a hard worker, and I'm somebody who would be able to learn it in a very short period of time. Oh, there's Paisley. Hi, Paisley. So I hope that helps.
3 businesses, what are they?
3 businesses, what are they? Okay, so business number 1 is Clean My Space Services in Toronto, which we started in 2006. The next is Clean Digital Productions, which is the company that we have where we run all of our digital content through, so our YouTube channel, our website, the book, all of that stuff goes through Clean Digital Productions. And then the third business, some of you guys might know, is makersclean.com, which is our line of premium microfiber cloths that I absolutely love. So those are our 3 businesses.
That's kind of it. We have a few people still here, but for the most part, that was. Yeah, maybe you could let people know that you'll be around in the comments for a little while longer.
Oh,
to
here's a good one.
answer-
What jobs did we have before we started Clean My Space?
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so this is kind of a fun one. I'm going to tell you guys. So I always wanted a retail job because I love cash registers. I know that sounds so nerdy, but you guys, all I ever wanted to do was work at a freaking cash register. And to this day, I'm 35, never worked a cash register. So anyway, one day I'll get to live out my fantasy. Maybe sometimes when Chad and I go to Costco, we just go to the cash register section and play with them. That's so embarrassing, but I did just tell you guys that. Okay, so I worked at a dental supply company. I was like the little office gopher, and I did that for a long time. I also waitressed and bartended for many years while I was in university. And what else did I do? For like 5 minutes, I worked as a telemarketer for an insurance company, and that, like I said, lasted for about 5 minutes. I worked at summer camps as a counselor. I had a lot of other jobs, but they are now escaping me. Chad, what did you do? I know what he did, but let him tell you. Get over here.
I was a waiter.
Look, like, show the people your face. You know?
Hi. I was a waiter. I was a bartender. I dropped out of high school and I was a stand-up comedian.
That's why he's so funny.
I did some acting for a little bit, and then I met you, and I decided that making cleaning videos on the internet was the thing for me.
There you go.
There you go.
What university did I attend and what was my experience? So I attended, so I live in Ontario and I stayed in my province, and I went to York University, to the Schulich School of Business there, which is a very well-known business school here in Canada, and I went there for a Bachelor's of Business Education, so that's what I did. Oh, Chad's getting so much love right now. We love you, Chad. Okay, Chad's taken, people. I am married to Chad.
Come on now.
FYI.
C-Ray needs more screen time.
Kidding you.
I can see Chad on a TV show
Oh,
for sure.
Yes.
My goodness, this is wonderful.
I'm just joking, you guys.
Can I get a shout out, please?
All right,
I'm a
one
big
sec.
fan.
How important is experience?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
How important is experience when you're applying for a job? Okay, so experience, honest to goodness, experience is really important. So if you're struggling getting experience, my recommendation to you is to get an internship or volunteer. You know what? We had an intern, and she was so good that we hired her on for a contract. So if you go to a company and you say, look, I'm having trouble getting experience, can I intern? Are there any volunteer opportunities? Is there anything I can do to build up my experience? Take that opportunity. It doesn't have to be for a long time. It could be for a month, 2 months, 3 months, but it gives you a chance to prove yourself. And if they don't have something for you, at least it gives you a great reference. But applying for jobs, it feels like an infuriating process if you don't have that experience.
Have you ever refused to clean somebody's house because it was too messy? And actually, I remember there was another question by Melanie Duncandy.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked, has a cleaner ever refused to clean a toilet that was just too dirty?
So the question is, have we ever refused certain cleaning jobs? Yes, we have, because we have a scope of work that we do, and then we have a scope of work that we don't do. So if there's any infestations or anything like that, we won't do the cleaning there. If there are any bodily fluids, we can't go in there. That's just a health and safety thing. If it's a site that's under construction and there's no running water or electricity, we can't go in there. And if it's a situation with a hoarder, that's not our business model, but we refer to another company that deals with that. So there are lots of times where we will, a client might not qualify for our services and we will turn it down. Have people said no to cleaning a toilet? Not that I can remember. Cleaning is sort of cleaning. It's like when a doctor sees a thing, like they're kind of used to it. So it's sort of the same with a toilet. Like, yeah, it could be kind of a bad toilet, but nothing that someone's going to turn their nose up to.
You look younger than 35. Do you get that a lot?
How
do you look so young?
I look younger than 35. Do I get that a lot? I get it all the time. Thank you very much. And you know what? Guys, it all comes down to genes. If you ever get a chance to see my dad, actually, we're putting a video together, a kind of behind the scenes video. You guys will see it soon. But I have pictures with my dad, and you can see him. The guy is like 67. He looks like he's in his 50s. So I want to say it's just genes. And I also moisturize. People who don't moisturize, like one of my girlfriends doesn't moisturize, and I lecture this girl. I don't understand it. So, yeah, take good care of your skin.
What kind of litter do you use for your cats? This is my husband's question.
What kind of litter do we use for our cats? Right now we're using the crystals because we find they're really good with odors.
Also, you don't tan, right?
I don't tan. Yeah, so I wear SPF on my face, and when I was younger, I did. I went to a tanning booth a few times because I had really bad acne. So I was told that it helped kind of dry your skin and get rid of acne. I don't think it really did. And then a couple times before I went on vacation when I was in university, I would go to a tanning bed, and then, of course, when I was younger, I would lie out on the beach like this with oil and try to tan, but I would never do that now. I'm very mindful about the sun.
Can you make a video about cleaning a gas stovetop?
Yeah, we could make a video about cleaning a gas stovetop. We just need to get a gas stovetop.
I don't know if this is a troll or not, but you're getting asked anyways. Have you ever farted during job/work?
No, I never fart. Next question. Ron's asking great questions.
There you go. Ask Ron's. What's your greatest strength and weakness?
Whoa, Ron, are you job interviewing me right now? I'm not prepared for this. His other question was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You see what I did there? You see I didn't want to answer that question. I just went to the other one that I wanted to answer. That's a great job interview skill. I'm kidding. Greatest strength is I'm really resourceful and I'm really resilient. So those are my two greatest strengths. And my greatest weakness, I would say to this day, I still let my emotions get the better of me sometimes. Where do I see myself in 5 years? God willing, Chad and I will have a family, and I see myself still doing a lot of what I'm doing now, but hopefully we've expanded our Makers Clean product line. We'd love to see our cleaning service company even get bigger and bigger, and of course we want to continue to create videos on YouTube, not only about cleaning, but about other things too. And who knows what 5 years will bring us.
What do you brush your cats with?
Oh man, I use a Furminator. I use
that little
rubber thing.
Well.
It's like a rubber glove with little spikes on it. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, you see Paisley now, she's creeping around.
When are you going to paint those cactuses behind you?
I'm never going to paint those cactuses. They're very nice as white. We're into the whole black and white thing.
Would you ever sell Clean My Space?
Would I ever sell Clean My Space? Of course I would. I'd sell it to the right seller for the right price. I sound like a used car salesman there, but the opportunity would have to be very interesting and make sense for us. But yeah, let's see an offer first and then we can talk.
Melissa, who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
My favorite stand-up comedian? Oh my goodness. I love Jerry Seinfeld. But I mean, Louis C.K., I love Brian Regan. We're actually going to see Brian Regan on September the 8th or 7th, I think, Thursday, next week. Jim Gaffigan.
Mitch
Yeah.
Hedberg.
Yeah, there are lots of great ones. Okay, let's do one more question, and then we're going to let these people go to bed.
You know what? Here's a really good one. Yes, Russell Peters.
Yes, read it, Russell Peters.
How do
Quite
you
funny.
clear your acne up?
Oh my God! You know what, guys? I feel like I have to do a whole live stream about my acne. How did I clear my acne up? It's a long one. I'm like, Chad, ask me a quick question. I can't answer this quickly. I've literally been through hell and back with my skin. I'm not wearing any makeup now, and I have great skin. And I can tell you, the only way that I managed to get good skin was to work with a naturopath and follow his every instruction. And it wasn't like a run-of-the-mill naturopath. He's very special, and he's amazing. And if you guys are in the Greater Toronto area, you can direct message me, and I'll give you his information. He's incredible, and it's because of him that I have clear skin today. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have been wonderful, fun, energetic, sweet, kind, complimentary, and great participants as usual. I'm going to stick around for a little bit after this live feed so I can answer some more of your questions.
In the comments.
We're testing out different times, so if you notice that we didn't do this on Thursday, to be honest, we had dinner plans on Thursday, so we said we'd do it another time. But we were also testing out different times to see what worked and what didn't. But I'll always let you know on Instagram when I'm about to do a live feed, and then you do get that notification on YouTube as well. And I'm going to put this video will be available on my channel afterward, and of course I'm going to put up a blog post on melissamaker.com. I wish you guys a wonderful week. Think of me tomorrow. I'm going to be interviewing literally from 9 until 5 p.m. Send me your good vibes. I hope to God that I find the two people that I really need. And I love that you guys hung out with me tonight. And I really, really, really hope that I helped you in some way, shape, or form succeed in your job interview or whatever endeavors that you have. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you soon.